We want to welcome everybody. It's another episode of Talk 22, hosted by me, your boy Mizzle to the Jizzle. I'm here once again hosting another episode. And I want to thank everybody that came through last time and listened to our discussion that we had. I think it was a meaningful discussion. We needed to have that. But we're going to move on like we always do. And one thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to a discussion that was just I feel like it's an important discussion. We were supposed to talk about this last week. Things happened, and schedules got all mixed up. But nonetheless, I feel like this was still such an important discussion. We just had to have it. This happened some time ago, but I feel like we still need to talk about it. So, one of the things that when I was looking over the internet and I saw some things that happened, and I think it was probably about a month ago we saw the situation that happened with the rapper Megan the Stallion and her I guess I don't know what you want to call entanglement at the time, uh, Tory Lanez, and they had a situation where they were together, and we're not sure on the full details of the story, but somehow, some way, she ended up getting shot. Um, and she got shot in her feet. And police were called, and they would pull out the vehicle and everything, and it just was an all bad situation. But then, as we started to learn a little bit more, and we're still kind of fuzzy about the details, but it just really seems like there was a lot of bad vibes there, and I feel like we just need to talk about it. So, with that being said, I brought my guest out today, and I want to thank them because for the first time ever, Talk 22 has its all female panel today. And I'm very proud of that. And I feel like today's panel is going to give some good insight on what we're trying to discuss. I feel like, fellas, I need y'all to sit back because y'all just need to listen on this one. I'm letting the females talk, and I will take those bullets and let them unload if they have to, because I feel like the females need to talk about this. So let them have their voice. And today's guests are going to help me with that. So I want to bring to your attention, I got a good friend of mine coming out of the Beloit area, the homegirl Raven. Raven, can you unmute your mic and say hello to the people?
Hello. Hey.
Yeah. Thank you, Raven, for joining us. Out of the Milwaukee area, I got my homegirl Jamila is on the line. Jamila, can you unmute your mic and say hello to the people?
Good evening, everybody. And Mizzle, it is historical that today you got an all-female panel, and Joe Biden announced that he has the first woman of African and Asian descent as his running mate. We just out here, it's black girl magic everywhere. Black girl magic everywhere.
Props to Joe Biden for that. Props to Joe Biden. Yep. We salute him on that choice. And also, we have Radio 22's very own out of the Madison area. My homegirl Shayna's on the line. Shayna, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
We thank you, Shayna, for coming to join us once again.
Always.
So, yeah, we're going to just step right into it, y'all. If you don't mind, I'm going to address with the first question of the day. I'm going to say is, when I look at the situation, I feel like we've seen this before. I feel like it's kind of eerily familiar. Is it just me, as this Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation kind of seem very much similar to Rihanna and Chris Brown? We're gonna start with you, Raven. What's your feelings on that?
I mean, I could say it's similar to the fact that it was domestic. I mean, I don't know. We can't all say if they were in a relationship together. I mean, so I can't say that much, but I will say that for sure something domestic happened between them two, in which is similar between Rihanna, Chris Brown, and other relationships too, not just Rihanna and Chris Brown. But I mean, I don't know if they were boyfriend, girlfriend, but I feel like, because I did watch the live prior to the situation and Kylie and her hanging out and Tory Lanez in the back in the swimming pool. I don't know if everybody's seen that part, but I would probably say a little jealousy kicked in that car ride that we don't know about. So, yeah.
Okay. Jamila, we're gonna go to you next. We're looking at it. Does this just seem like too familiar to you as well, or is this a totally different situation you feel? I mean,
I feel like it's an all too familiar situation, which is disheartening and sad. Does it have essence of Rihanna and Chris Brown? Yes. Does it have essence of Ike and Tina Turner? Yes. Does it have the essence of Jenny from the Block? Not Jennifer Lopez, but your everyday roundaway girl and whoever she dealing with at the time. Like, it has some similarities. I like, to Raven's point, I'm not real sure about what Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion's relationship status is, but however, it does have some similarities, I think.
Okay. Sheena, we have seen Tory Lanez got the quarantine radio. It was popping off during this whole coronavirus situation. We did see Megan in a lot of those videos twerking and whatnot and doing her thing. So, and we know that was shot at his home. So it did seem like she was there an awful lot. Would you say, Sheena, that this seems too much similar to the Chris Brown and Rihanna situation, or a different whole vibe?
I tried to do my homework to see if they were actually dating or not. It seems like they were maybe talking or something. So, yeah, it does strike me as a little Chris Brownie, a little Rihanna-ish. Like, it seems like it's very early on, maybe still. That, but I mean, shooting her in both of her feet, that just seems a little extreme. So I guess I'm just still wondering, like, what more of the details are as of the why. How did we get here?
Yeah, very
I don't
true.
know.
She hasn't yet been willing to speak all the way on that, but yeah, that's why the details are just kind of fuzzy. But we all do know that Chris got a lot of backlash on that situation, rightfully so. But I mean, I don't know. Tory is well loved
Getting that
by the
much.
lady. What are we saying, Raven?
He's not getting that much at all back.
I
Okay.
don't think Tory Lanez is that great, to be honest.
Right.
He's no Chris Brown. I'm just going to say that. He's no Chris Brown. So, I mean, that could be a career ender for him. No problem. Just saying.
You're right about that.
Chris Brown could bounce back because he can sing, he can dance. Like, he has something to bring to the table. Tory Lanez was already kind of like a meh. So, nah. Like,
And then he's not even a citizen of the United States. So
see, that I
That's
didn't even
another
know
good point.
until this happened.
And you're
This
from
is
Canada.
true. He is from Canada. Do you agree, Jamila, that you could take it or?
I just think just amidst of what every all that's going on in the world, I think, celebrity news is just not a priority right now. If we look at the Rihanna Chris Brown situation, like, celebrity news and taboo was really kind of the thing to do. We were on the internet. We were looking at, things to entertain us. I think there are so many other things that have our priority and attention right now. People are just like, okay, like, whatever. It's a whole pandemic going on.
Right.
There is like political unrest in every major city in the United States. And to Raven and Sheena's point, you're Canadian. So, meh.
Fair enough. This is why I needed the ladies to speak. This is why I said, fellas, we are having the ladies speak today. And that's where we're going with that today.
I think there's true side in that car, though, because, I feel like some jealousy was going on. I feel like she probably said no too many times to him, and he just wasn't listening. And I'm sure that friend who, which is her best friend, knows more too, and she just, she can't say anything. But in a situation to relate to Chris Brown and any other man, when jealousy hits and you don't know what to do with it, you don't get mad, you don't get angry, you don't reach for a gun, you don't put your hands on another person. It's just a lot of things you don't do. And then you're not even from here. So the audacity of you to do that is, like I said, I feel like a lot of jealousy played out there, and his hands went a little bit, I don't want to say too far, but they went too far. He wanted to take her career away from her. Shooting her in both her feet can be career ending for her. She dances,
That's game
hello,
changer.
the knees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he knew what he was doing.
Okay. I'll move on to the next question. So speaking of the friend, with the friend being in that situation, do you feel like it's the friend's place to speak up on the situation if you see a friend that is in a situation where she's in a domestic abuse situation, or should she stay in her lane, or how should a friend, I guess, handle that situation? I'm gonna start with you, Shayna. What do you feel about that?
I feel like that's something she needs to address with her friend. I don't think it's something she should address publicly or on social media, because her loyalty should always be to her friend first before anybody else. So,
Okay.
If Megan is asking her to stay quiet or address it a certain way, I think she should respect Megan's wishes, but I think she should also tell her, as the outside person looking in, what the observation is too.
Okay. Okay, Jamila, the way you looking at it, are you looking at it that if you are a friend to someone and you see your friend is going through it with their man or whatnot, and they're in a similar situation, is it up to you to speak up and say this ain't what right, or or do you feel like it's up to the friend to just you stay in your lane and let your friend handle it?
Listen, your friend is your lane, okay? So you are not stepping outside of your lane if you are addressing your friend. If you love your friend, I think you have a responsibility to the friendship to say something. To Sheena's point, it shouldn't be publicly, right? To Sheena's point, it's not the friend's responsibility to say something to the man in the situation. But if your friend, and as Raven said earlier, that's your best friend, absolutely, we should have a relationship and an understanding that I'm coming out of love first and foremost. So anything that I say comes from that vantage point, and it should be received in that vantage point. I had a friend who is no longer my friend because she continued to stay in a very, very abusive relationship, to the point where it became dangerous for me. They would get into it. She called me in the middle of the night. I jump out of my bed and go and try to rescue her. I bring her to my house. She stay a couple days, and then a couple days later, she's back at home. And I realized you have to honor people's choices and decisions, right? And you have to respect people enough to allow them to make their own choices. And so when she called me in the middle of the night and was in Chicago, and I was getting ready to jump out of my bed in Milwaukee and drive 99 miles to rescue her, my husband said, this is not what we're going to do, because at this point, you're endangering yourself. And so it was at that point that I had a conversation with said friend. I said, look, I can't love you more than you love yourself. And I have to love you enough to honor your choices. Now, understand that I don't agree with this. However, I can't continue to watch this and do absolutely nothing about it. And it's going to get to a point where I may get involved, and now I'm at risk of being injured. And I don't want that smoke. So I have to dissolve the friendship because of that.
right? I mean, that is a scary situation. I mean, we even look at this Megan Thee Stallion situation, and the friend was in the car, I guess, when the shooting stuff happened. So you don't know what could have happened when the bullets ring off, you know? I mean, in some ways, like Megan said, we're kind of lucky that it hit her feet and it didn't hit any areas that she can't recover from. So, very lucky in that situation. You are right. Raven, do you also agree with that situation? I mean, as a friend, do you feel like it's up to you to speak up, or do you fall back and stay in your lane when it comes to those situations?
I mean, just the person I am, I'm speaking up irregardless, even if it's a stranger. I mean, that's just me. But being my best friend, or if I'm someone's best friend, like Jamila said, I'm gonna say and do only so much until it can harm me, because I don't want it to harm me and my family, because I have people to go back home to also. But the friend could have been hurt. Many people could have been hurt in that situation. Driver, bystanders. I mean, there's, when you're dealing with a toxic situation, it's sometimes not just two people in the household. It's other people you're hurting too. Whether it's kids, family, bystanders, strangers. It should definitely be up to the friend to speak up and try to get it across your best friend's head. But if they can't and they keep running back, and maybe it is you're being you're enabling that friend to keep doing it because you're almost at that point supporting it. Drop off, let it go. Hey, if they wake up and learn, that's great. But if not, you tried everything you could, so.
You find any responsibility to that friend to, have her back and speak up in that situation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, now if somehow she was getting back, I'm sure like Megan told her to, be quiet. But me, I don't know. See, I take it. I'm the type, maybe it's just me, because I have been in that situation and I don't want to see another person go through it. I'm going to try to fight you. But
I was going to say, him and I would have been fighting.
Right. So I would have been trying to fight that little man. So I never know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a friend that go too hard, but people could have hurt. So I don't know.
Okay.
When I love hard. So there's no way I would have been able to just sit there and be like, oh, yeah, you're going to pull a gun. No, there's no way. Him and I would have been fighting.
And then who called the police?
Well, I would assume that she needed medical help, so.
They got called because there was a shooting.
But who shoots somebody in the feet? I mean, seriously, in the feet? Like, who does that?
That's a good point. That may have not been on purpose. I mean, it may have been, may not.
Maybe the best friend was trying to beat him up, and the gun went off.
Yeah, there you go. That could be a possibility too.
Because who shoots somebody in the feet? That's just weird.
That is very weird. But we're gonna move on to the next question here. And that being said, let's just get right to it. Is there ever a situation where there's a justification to a man being violent to a woman? We'll start with you, Jamila. Is there ever a situation where you feel like, all right, I understand?
In my best Oprah Winfrey voice as Miss Sophia on Color Purple, hell no. There is no level of emotion to ever make a man feel like he has to physically, verbally, or emotionally injure anybody. And it just isn't. Like there's nothing to explain. There's nothing to understand. Now there may be mitigating circumstances, or there may be some external factors that contribute to this enhanced anger. However, that's still not an excuse. Raven, I didn't see the live beforehand when they was in the pool and all this, that, and the other. So I would almost bet that there were some recreational activities that were going on while they were partying that may have contributed to this heightened emotional state that Tory found himself in. Does that justify it? Absolutely not. Does it contribute? Yes. Do I understand it? No, but I can kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together and say, I can understand how he arrived at this heightened state of emotion, but I never can you get to a point of emotion where you have to harm somebody. And as a man, you should be man enough to know when you've reached a point where you almost cannot return. And as a man, you should be able to step back, turn around, walk away from that situation. Put Meg out the car, put the best friend out the car, you get out the car. I don't know what it is, but the level of thought and energy that it took to reach for the gun wherever it was, if it was in the glove compartment, if it was in your, in your waist, if it was in your jacket, like that requires thought and execution. So in the time that you were thinking and executing this plan, your Y chromosome should have kicked in and you should have said, I'm a bigger man than this, and should have done something different.
Okay. Sheena, the way that we look at it, I mean, we also seen a situation just recently, if you follow, I don't necessarily watch his show, but I know it's been talked in media that there was a situation with the homie Vado and Love and Hip Hop's Tahiri, where I guess they had got into it too, and I guess they stating that I guess on the show she threw apples and degraded him and in such a way that he felt some type of way about it and ended up putting hands on her in that situation. Is there ever a situation in your mind, Sheena, that is a justification to a man, I guess, being violent towards a woman?
Well, I have sons. I have adult sons and I have a couple of young sons. And I guess there's never a reason to fight. There's never a reason to put your hands on anybody. As far as a man and a woman fighting, I guess if it was one of my sons and if a woman was beating him up, I would expect him to put the woman in like a chicken wing or something and get her to stop. Do I want him to hit her? No. But I would expect him to protect himself to some degree to get her to stop. Fighting just isn't one of those things that, we condone in our household. As far as the Love and Hip Hop, I don't watch that. I'm always watching local stuff, so I don't usually watch the celebrity stuff. But yeah,
I guess I'll use that as an example, just so those at home who may watch that maybe can encounter it with something. But just in your own experiences or what you have seen, maybe you can kind of understand that if a man was put in a certain situation, would you feel like there's a justification?
I would expect my sons to protect themselves. I wouldn't expect them to slap, punch, bite, kick, or anything, or shoot, or anything like that. But I would expect them to protect themselves. As far as, some hopefully less violent way of not hitting them. I don't know. I would not expect one of my sons to sit there and get beat on by a female either.
Okay.
So is there ever a justification for it? No. But if it did happen, I would not expect them to just take it either.
Gotcha. Okay, Raven, I guess we're gonna go to you next. I mean, the way it's looked at, is there any justification that you can see? I mean, how much do you feel like a man should take in abuse himself before, I guess he feels some type of way and feels he may need to retaliate? Do you feel that there's any justification there for you?
I mean, let's say I'm gonna say start off saying no, period. But I don't want to put a but in there. I mean, I watch the ID channel a lot, okay? And I know the situation you're speaking of. And
Okay.
as a man and as a woman, you shouldn't tolerate none of that, period. The first time you tolerate it, there will be a second. And then there will be a third, and then there will be a fourth. So the first time you see it, you see the red flags of it, because there's always red flags. That's when you need to discuss it or walk away. There you go. So I like, there is no justification. I mean, I had a roommate, and you know who I'm speaking of, back in Milwaukee, who had a boyfriend, and no lie, she abused the HE double hockey sticks out of him. I mean, verbally, physically, mentally. I mean, threw everything at him, embarrassed him in concerts, in front of people. Just, he had enough. He had enough. The night that he put his hands on her, he slapped her. And, I'm not going to lie, I was pissed that he did it, but then I understood why he did it. But there's no justification why he should have done it, because he could have pushed her off, walked away, left the room, let her tear up the whole house and everything. But I mean, there is no reasoning why a man should, because a man's strength is 10 times stronger than a woman's. I don't care if you're a bodybuilder or not. It is what it is. But ladies, I mean,
There's limits.
I'm not trying to verbally fight no man either. You know what I'm saying? I personally not going to argue with you verbally and then get you pushed to your limit. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not going to do that. I don't want nobody to do that to me either. Because you just never know. So there's never a time or a day a man should put their hands on a woman. But I mean, I don't want to say that there's a justification, because he did hit. I mean, what no, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? No, there isn't. No, there isn't at all. But can a man recover from it? Yes, they can. But then there is no justification for it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to say that, because I've been in both situations and seen them both. So, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, okay, but then Jamila, I guess I'm coming to you then. At what point does a man look like maybe like a simp or whatnot if he is continuously taking that said, if it's verbal or whatever abuse,
To Raven's point, nobody should take it man, woman, boy, girl. Like, nobody should endure continuous abuse of any kind. Once you see it the first time, okay, maybe they got angry. We're going to have a conversation about it. You see it a second time, then you're like, okay, this is like an identifying quality of their character. Now I need to make some decisions on how I'm going to proceed. Now, we all have freedom of choice. We don't have freedom of consequence. So I can choose to stay, knowing full well that this potentially could be a characteristic of this individual, and know what I am staying in. I also have the equal opportunity to leave. Yeah, I have had friends whose significant others who were female get physical with them. And like Raven said, men are strong. So I know that I've had friends who have grabbed their significant other by the arms and just kind of looked them directly in the eye like, this ain't what we doing, because this ain't what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough for some people to be like, okay, I've gone too far. I just think that because domestic abuse has been sensationalized and normalized, we've become desensitized to it, and it's just too. People are surprised when you have not experienced a level of domestic violence in your relationship than they are, that you have. And that is a problem.
Mhm.
Mm. I mean, very much so. I mean, I have, I guess, friends of mine who work in the education field that tell me that this a lot of times starts at very young ages, where they see kids that will go back and forth with each other, and I guess almost it seems almost normal for the boys and girls to be, swinging at each other, but like that's how they show that they kind of care about each other. Which I mean, I don't know. Is that something, Sheena, that we see as normal, or is that I
I
mean, what do
don't
you
think
think that
any part of that is
phenomenon?
normal. I don't think anything about that is normal. I have a whole group of kids, and putting your hands on each other has never been an option. You need to communicate what your feelings are, but when I was growing up, I had younger brothers, and they used to fight like cats and dogs, like throw punches and fight. So when I had my own kids, it was a big thing in our house that we don't put our hands on each other, just because I feel like that I wanted to create a safe space. When you come home, this is your safe zone. So yeah, no, there's just never a good reason to put your hands on somebody. I don't like it. I don't agree with it.
I mean, yeah, I also have a daughter, and hashtag girl dad. Yeah, I am one of those. Uh, and many times I tell her in many situations that she likes to instigate things at times, and I tell her, it's not good to instigate and try to pick a fight with this boy or whatnot, because at some point he may try to swing at you, and then that's not going to be okay. And at the end of the day, it's going to look like, well, you started it, So I mean, at some point, do you girls agree that when girls, I guess, start these situations, at the same time, it should be looked at as the boys should still, I guess, monitor their behavior in those situations, I guess? Not to beat a dead horse, but as
I
we
mean,
say
it's like the negative attention seeking kind of thing. So I've always tried to tell my sons, because I have sons and daughters, and I always try to tell my sons kind of from my own point of view that, when females are showing you this behavior, it probably means, X, Y, and Z. So try to read between the lines, because, not everybody is raised to have open communication. I'm big on communication. You have to communicate how you feel. If you don't say it, somebody can't just read your mind. So, you have to communicate your feelings, whether you're upset, happy, whatever it is, you have to communicate that. And everybody has their own communication style. So it's like, once you learn your communication style, you just need to make sure that you use it.
I would even take it one step further, Sheena, about not communicating your feelings, but also recognizing what your feelings are. I think a lot of times people have not identified their feelings correctly, and so they put it into categories. Either I'm angry or I'm happy.
Yeah.
And so jealousy comes off as anger, right? Mixed emotion comes off as anger. And so because we haven't properly identified the whole spectrum of emotions, if I'm not happy, then I'm automatically angry. And when I'm angry, I act this way. Therefore, whatever situation, like Raven believes that, there was some jealousy that was going on in the car, right? Tory Lanez felt some type of way, right? About whatever he felt. But because we don't take time to evaluate and process our own emotions to identify them, we can't communicate them. all we know is happy and not happy. And when we're not happy, we want to be happy. So we're going to do whatever's going to satisfy us in the moment. So grabbing for that gun, or, slapping somebody, or, pushing somebody because I need to feel a certain way in a moment when you don't even really know how you feel in that moment in the beginning. So I would say it goes back to even identifying your emotions in order to be able to communicate them effectively. Because how, if you like somebody, you're going to pull their hair or talk mean to them? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. But because I haven't sat down and said, I like this individual, and because I like this individual, how do I want this individual to feel, right? And so once we do that, once we identify those emotions, then we can communicate them. Like, okay, hypothetically speaking, Meg, I didn't appreciate you talking to me that way. That made me feel less of a man. So I would appreciate if you don't speak to me like that anymore. Simple.
Very solid point. Very solid point.
Do you think that he did it for clout?
Me personally, I don't believe so.
I think no. I really think
just because her career is up here and his is down here, so that's a great way to get his name out there and draw all kinds of attention.
But
I don't think that's the kind of smoke you want, though.
That's where that jealousy, like she said, Jamila said.
Jealousy is the ugliest trait.
Right. Instead of communicating, hey, you're making me feel this type of way, because he probably was feeling some type of way, maybe ignored or whatever. Instead of voicing it, he just uses his actions, And to go off what you said, Jamila, they teach kids. I don't know. I know they didn't teach me in school, but I know they're teaching my daughter now about how to use your words when you're sad, angry, happy, what each emotion truly means. Now they're teaching these kids that. They didn't teach me. So, a lot of people can't identify that. They can't stop and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Can you guys please stop, because my this, that, and the third. So then they act out because they don't know. And if they do it, then it's like, oh, I'm embarrassed. Now
especially men.
Right. Yes. Now you're messing with my pride. You're making me feel. Yep. I mean, just say he's already short, so he probably.
I was gonna say he's already lacking.
So instead of using common words like they teach kids nowadays, he's just actions. So, and then this goes for any male, female. Our words can go far. I have a boy and a girl, and I'd be danged if they cannot use their words with each other. My brother used to beat me up from the time I was probably 5 until about 16 years old. He would physically and verbally beat me down. Okay, so I knew this was not going to happen to my kids. So, teaching them the verbal and how to use your words. And when you're feeling sad, to say, hey, brother, this makes me feel sad. Can you not do this? It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't do nothing, but in the end, you have a better relationship. You have a sense of communication with the next person, and you feel better inside. And then there's not all these negative consequences in the end.
And it teaches you how to communicate with other people in the world.
Yes.
I agree. All right. Well, I'm going to move on to the next question because I want to get to this. Being that we see in a situation in the New York area where a young lady that was calling the police on the young man who kind of scolded her about, having her dog off leash and whatnot. And she didn't think that was right, so she ended up calling the police on him, knowing that once the police come, that there may be a problem towards the young African-American man. My question to you is, do you believe that in all these domestic violence situations, that one should always be involving the police? I'm going to start with you, Raven.
Well, I don't know. See, I didn't hear that situation. So, I mean, I don't know if the dog was bothering her where she could have went in her house and just been on, if, or it
No,
was just a Karen
the
situation.
situation was it was the young lady's dog, and she was supposed to have the dog on the leash in the park, but she chose not to. And the young man said, "Listen, you're supposed to have the dog on a leash." And then she said, "Who are you to tell me?" So she didn't
Uh,
like that because he
uh,
was an African American man, and said, "Well,
And
okay,
was this a white lady?
yes." So she said, "I
okay.
feel threatened. I'm calling the police. There's a black man attacking me," knowing
Wow.
that there was going to be a situation there.
And with everything
Knowing
that's
that
going on in the
there
world.
is, I mean, knowing that there is angst between police and a lot of the young black population and even older black population.
Well,
How do you feel about that?
I'll say this. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew she knew it wasn't no threat. Okay. It's a sense of control at this moment. I know I can do it. I know I can get away with it. And this is what I can do. And I'm going to do it. So you don't tell me I can't do this. And even though it's the rule right there, I'm sure in the park right there, she felt here and he's still down here. Even though the rule still makes them both here, she still
Correct.
felt here. So, I mean, I believe personally we should involve the police in domestic, especially depending on the situation, how far it goes. But when it's a domestic between two strangers and one's irking it on to a complete stranger, then
Mm-hmm.
she knew what she was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like she knew that that man was gonna get hurt. She knew, and almost in the inside, I bet she was like, in the inside, I succeeded. So I would say no to that situation because she could have just followed the basic rules that was probably at the park. I'm sure it was at the park. But nowadays, it's like, and not, hey, I love all white, black, whatever. But if I'm in a relationship, say if I was a black man in a relationship with a white woman and a domestic came about, I'm
I'd be
almost scared
scared.
you would call the police on me.
I'd be scared.
Even if we were just arguing, I'm almost scared.
I
Because you
would
never
be
know
scared.
what the neighbor would be thinking that's going on. So, I mean, I would say yes, the police should be involved, but how things are going on nowadays, I believe the police should show up with a psychologist or some type of therapist because they cannot de-escalate nothing nowadays. Nothing. Their method of de-escalation is to pull the trigger and yell.
Mm.
And that's how Tory Lanez allegedly de-escalated the situation that was in the car.
Boom. Yep. Same thing.
Okay.
But he doesn't
Now
have
All right.
that.
I'm lucky. I'm happy you said that, Jamila, because I'm actually coming to you next. The way that we look at it, Megan kind of, in a way, as this situation occurred with the police showing up, she was a little fearful for Tory in that situation when the police rode up on them, despite the violence that had happened to her. Do you feel that it's always the best situation to involve the police in situations where there was a domestic dispute?
That's a loaded question, Mizzle.
Yeah.
That's a loaded question. If the police were true to their oath of protecting and serving the people in which they took the oath to protect and serve, then absolutely you involve the police. You call the police when there's a car accident because they're there to protect and serve, right? They're supposed to de-escalate the situation, gather the facts, make a determination if the law has been possibly broken, and then you act accordingly. However, when that is marred or skewed by people's personal opinions about a group of people, then they're just not, it's not good. If an individual truly feels threatened, if they feel like their life or their well-being is in danger, by all means call the police. In the situation with the young lady with her dog off the leash, I am sure she did not feel as threatened. And although she used the word attacked strategically, there was a confrontation. Now, given the mitigating circumstances that she was white, he was black, the police roll up on the scene with already some, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but they already have some bias. They already have some bias, right? Mm-hmm. So they show up on the scene. And so instead of separating and having a conversation with both parties to get, both sides of the truth to meet somewhere in the middle, we're going to immediately, okay, you attacked this woman. How dare you do this, blase, woo-woo, or whatever. And I think that is, unfortunately, that is the approach that a lot of police officers have taken. So they take whatever the report is, and then instead of trying to find the facts, they're just trying to find somebody to arrest.
Okay. Not knowing that I know your preference or not, Sheena, but I'm going to ask you a question here. With it being said, let's say you had a boyfriend that is of the Black or Hispanic race, and you guys are going through it, and it gets a little violent. But this is like your kid's father or whatnot, and you're looking at it. Are you a little hesitant to involve the police in that situation, knowing that there may be a situation for your kid's father in that situation?
So first of all, I don't like the police. My first instinct has never been to call police, ever. No matter if I was in the middle of a bank robbery, I don't think my first instinct would be to call the police. Mm-hmm. I think I go into more of like the fight or flight mode and, try to figure it out for myself. Yeah, I don't see myself calling the police in a situation like that. I guess no matter how bad it got, I don't trust the police. I never really have. And especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, there's no way that I would call the police because I don't see anything good coming out of that. In a situation like that, I guess I would look at it like, don't poke the bear. If whatever is going on, how can I de-escalate this situation, even though I'm the one that's in the middle of it, because I don't want the police to come, because look what could happen. And that's something that I would have to live with. That's something that would never go away. You can't take that back. And no, calling the police just isn't really an option for me. I don't know.
Okay. I respect your thoughts on that. All right, we'll move to the next question quickly. Do you believe that there's a difference between physical abuse versus verbal abuse? Is it greater, or is it less than, or is it equal to? Is it the same? I'm gonna go to you, Jamila. Do you see that there's a difference between it?
It's separate but equal, right? So okay. I think obviously the wounds from physical abuse are visible. The wounds from emotional abuse are not. However, the scars are the same, right? They take time to heal. I don't know that they live apart from each other. I don't think that you can separate physical abuse from emotional or mental abuse. Like I think it's a spectrum, right? You're causing harm and damage intentionally to an individual. And there's no one that's greater than the other, right? It isn't. I just think that they are equal. And I understand that mental and emotional abuse can live outside of physical abuse, But I don't know that physical abuse can live outside and apart from mental or emotional abuse, because in essence, you're inadvertently abusing someone mentally by making them feel superior, and emotionally because you are basically, you're manipulating their emotions. You do things to elicit an emotional reaction, and if you're doing that for malintent, that essentially is emotional abuse. So I don't know that physical abuse lives outside of mental and emotional abuse, but I can understand how mental and emotional abuse can live outside of physical abuse.
Okay. Sheena, I'm gonna move to you. Do you also agree with that? Do you think that there's a difference? I mean, is one greater than the other, or is it equal to when it
So
comes to physical and emotional abuse?
I don't see that there's ever a situation where there's physical abuse in a relationship and there isn't emotional abuse attached to that. Because how did you get to the physical without doing the emotional part first? You didn't just wake up and punch somebody. You're going to start with the emotional part, whether it's name calling, the low blows, whatever is going back and forth. Unfortunately, I've been on both sides of the spectrum and they both suck. The emotional, I think, lives in your soul a little bit longer, just because the words do dig deeper, because a lot of times when it's emotional abuse, it's a long ongoing thing and it's constant. Whereas physical abuse, it's kind of like a one-time, one and done, as much as that sounds terrible. But the emotional abuse without the physical part attached is it just can go on forever, and it can wear on your soul after a while. And then you, I think, come to a point where you start to kind of buy into what they're telling you. So it can ruin your spirit. Sometimes I wonder if being punched one time would be better than being called whatever name for 6 months. But I don't think that there's any way that you have physical abuse without emotional abuse. I don't see how that would work.
That's a good point. Okay, last question. Can a man ever apologize for his actions? Do you feel like once a man puts hands on you, is it the be all said all? I mean, can he come back and be like, "Baby, I'm sorry," or is it just that's what it is? I'm gonna start with you, Sheena. I'm gonna go right back to you.
I mean, I guess my thing is that when I'm in a relationship with somebody, you have that trust where I'm trusting my safety with you. I'm trusting that you're not going to harm me, whether it's physically or emotionally. So once you violate that, even if I make the ridiculous decision to stay in the relationship and continue on, there's always going to be that, thought in the back of your mind that I don't know how you would get that trust back. Where when you do argue, it's always going to come to me like, oh my God, are you going to hit me again? Or, is this going to happen again? Because if it happened once, it's going to happen twice. I mean, I don't know. I feel like everybody tries to give everybody a second chance, but you don't ever really rebuild that trust.
Okay, yeah, it's all about the trust. That is a hard thing to build with somebody, and once you lose that, that's kind of tough. But Jamila, I'm going to ask you: do you kind of share the same sentiment?
So I agree, and I disagree. So I agree to the extent that trust is violated, and you will never be able to reach the level of trust that you once had, right? So they're always like when you buy something from the store, you get a receipt. And even if you return that item to the store, you still have the receipt, the original receipt from what you purchased, right? So you always have a reminder that you purchased this, regardless of if you returned it or not. However, I do believe in the redeeming quality of forgiveness. And yes, I believe an individual can apologize, but you have to apologize with just more than your words. You have to apologize with your actions. And that's the only way that you'll be able to rebuild to a closer level of trust we once had, but never will trust be fully restored. So I do believe that an individual can apologize, and I believe if they are truly resentful and repentful for what they did, then there's going to be a change of behavior. But to Sheena's point, like, I always have that reminder that, and I'm always going to proceed with a level of caution, because I cannot be naive or ignorant to the fact that this once happened. So I have to guard and, adjust accordingly.
Okay, well, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. We want to thank our panel today for joining us. Once again, we had Jamila. Jamila, we know that you run in, can you tell people about the business that you run in and whatnot, and where they can find you?
Yes. So I run a business called Agape Yoga Street. It is a peculiar ministry that uses the movement art of yoga to align body, breath, and spirit to that of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which in essence is divine alignment.
That's dope.
Yep. So that's what I do, really sitting. And so it's yoga, it's meditation, it's self-awareness, it's, sitting with self, it's evaluating emotions, it's journaling, it's all of those things. I start with kids as young as 4 years old, and I teach yoga to people who are 104 years old. And so you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Instagram. It's just Agape Yoga Street, AGAPE Yoga Street. So like the word yoga and ministry put together, YOGASTRY. And I have a website, www.agapeyogastreet.com.
That's dope.
Okay. So yeah, we want to thank you, Jamila, for joining the program tonight.
Thank you.
Also, we had Sheena here as well, Radio 22's very own. Can you let them know what you got coming, Sheena? We know you all over the place.
I am all over the place. So I host a show called Who's Next? We air every Friday at 8 p.m.? 8 p.m. We interview local artists, play their music. Let's see what else. I host parties, host shows where local artists can perform. Pretty much anything that's local in music, we're involved in.
She's all over the place. I know you just had a show in Appleton not too long ago as well. So
we got one coming up in Danville. Is that what it's called? With that, it was supposed to be FBG Duck. So rest in peace, FBG Duck. Prayers to his family. So now it's El Hida. So I got one coming up with them. And then I think it's every first Friday I'm in Appleton, and every third Saturday I'm in Appleton. And then I got something in Milwaukee coming up that'll be once a month. We're all over the place. It's crazy. Everywhere but Madison, because Madison has restrictions.
Let them know where they can find you.
So on Facebook, you can find me at Miss Sheena, or it's Sheena Ray is my personal page. On Instagram, it's Miss Sheena 608. My Snapchat is Miss Sheena 608.
Okay, that's what's up.
Radio 22 page. You should definitely look at that. If you don't have the Radio 22 app, you should definitely download that. And the Who's Next page on Facebook also.
Okay. Well, we thank you, ladies, for joining us. Also, we want to thank you, Raven, for joining. We know that you had another obligation that you had to leave the panel during the show tonight, but we thank you as well for joining. And we want to thank you all for viewing us tonight. If we want to hear from you, so please leave your comments. And until next time, y'all, we want to thank you. This is me, Mizzle Jizzle, Talk 22. Till next time, y'all.
Appreciate you, Mizzle.